How did a 12-year-old kid like me end up becoming a Mafia kingpin on Habbo Hotel? Imagine being 12 years old and having hundreds of people follow your orders in a virtual world. Just think of how surreal that is. Habbo was a virtual online chat room behemoth many years ago, where users created avatars, built rooms, socialized, and well, in my case, form an organized crime family. Now the origins of my story includes another, and so for me to give a correct account of things, we must start with my friend, Joe. Now every good Mafia story starts with a little bad luck, and for Joe, it was a house fire. Family had to move out, but Joe found a new kind of heat. That's when he discovered Habbo Hotel. And so he enters a room and there's a bunch of kids making money off these virtual burgers in this pixelated McDonald's. Entire operation run by a kid. Just a kid. Just flipping burgers with other kids underneath him.
Kid, I'm flipping burgers. I'm flipping.
Wipe the tables and customers are at the table, I get paid for it.
There you go. Yo, tell me why I come to work and I see this fucking child slavery bullshit. The fuck is this?
Now Joe was never the sort to just sit on the sidelines. He wanted in on the action. So what does my 12-year-old friend do? He sets up his own McDonald's. A kid in the virtual world building his own empire, one burger at a time. Joe's father came into the room and you could see Joe was quite upset about the house being on fire, and he looked at Joe and he was like, "Come on, Joe, I'm going to take you on holiday." And where do we go? We go to Ibiza. We go to Ibiza, my friend, my son.
Oh my god! Wow!
So there we were, poolside, soaking up the sun, but Joe couldn't let go of Habbo, no. He turns to me and says,
You ever heard of Mafia RPG, Jacob?
I had no idea what he was talking about, but Joe, he got that look in his eye.
It's like running a business, but with more power.
He tells me, and I'm hooked, just like that. We find the nearest internet cafe called the Phone Box. Now, we do this because back then, in the early 2000s, we didn't have laptops really on hand or a phone on hand that had any capability of running Habbo Hotel, so we had to go old school. We had to go find an internet cafe. And so we enter a dimly lit, crowded cafe with old PCs and loads of tourists trying to check their emails and shit. We were on a mission, and once we booted up the game, we knew this was it. The Mafia life was calling. But there was one problem. We needed credits, and credits cost money, and we don't have any money because we're kids. So then, what do a couple poor Habbo kids do? We saw that the business that we were at, you know, the cafe, had a phone that looked like one of those old British phone booths. So we had a plan. Dialed in to buy Habbo credits. Using the cafe's phone, we figured, hey, no one will notice. But of course, it wasn't our money being spent. We were racking up charges faster than we could decorate our Mafia headquarters. And still to this day, 17 years later, I don't think we ever heard from them. So if you're watching Telephone Place, I apologize. I apologize. This is me saying sorry. I'm sorry. So that was the thing about being in a virtual family as a kid. We weren't just playing some game. We were living this fantasy. We were role-playing as gangsters in this virtual world. And you have to really believe me when we genuinely thought we were orchestrating our own organization. And when we needed something, we went out and got it. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was the birth of the Vino family. Bam! Now what the hell is a Mafia RPG, you might be asking? Well, it's a role-playing community. Imagine Dungeons and Dragons or LARPers. You know the guys and girls who go out to forests and pretend to be knights and queens, but it's role-playing about being a gangster. So it's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's more like streets and gangsters, I guess.
Listen, I'd like to give you a chance to make amends. Capiche?
Mafia RPG wasn't the only one that existed as well. There was many others, many different types of role-playing communities on Habbo Hotel. Star Wars, you could get into Harry Potter, you could get into business roleplay, you know, like McDonald's and Burger King and things like that, flipping burgers. Or you could get into gang roleplay, which More or less, it was just kind of sat in a room on a chair. So yeah, you know, I remember experiencing these other communities for sure. You know, they were fun in their own right. Like, I think I remember joining Star Wars roleplay for a second. And I think I even tried Harry Potter at one point, but I'll be honest, it just wasn't a vibe. I remember exploring the Harry Potter rooms and walking into one of the classrooms, and the inner gangster.
It's like, Wingardium Leviosa. He's a wise guy. A Wingardium Leviosa guy. Expelliarmus. Fucking Expelliarmus and the fucking Wingardium Leviosa and fucking get me out of this fucking place and back to fucking New York.
So to join Mafia RPG back then, you had to follow a certain first name, last name format in your character creation. I created Al Vecino. I was way out of my depth, you know, I had zero idea on how anything really worked on Habbo Hotel at this point. I was drawn into this subculture because of how immersive and structured it was. The entire city of New York and its main boroughs were recreated inside Habbo Hotel, a massive matrix maze of interconnected rooms being used for streets, shops, basements, homes, buildings, you name it. And one of the main things that set Mafia RPG apart from the closed off communities in Habbo Hotel was the fact that you and I and anybody else, you could make a business, slap the Mafia RPG tag onto the room name, and you were part of it. It had infinite growth potential. Anybody could make a business, anybody could add to the matrix, anybody could join in. We had it all. A virtual playground. The stage was set. To roleplay in Habbo Hotel, you needed two things. One, a basic level of creativity, and one of these. Now, since the very early days of Mafia RPG, the rules have been developed and are a lot much more fleshed out these days. For example, you have to have a minimum of, say, 5 lines of text roleplay to actually commit a successful combat action. And even then, the community is a lot more mature now, and generally role-playing communities will be a lot more empathetic to the person that they're role-playing with. Whereas back at the start of Mafia RPG, we were kids and we were seriously out for blood. These days, you actually have to spell. Back then, you could really just type whatever. So you're a kid with a gun, and you want to kill somebody in Mafia RPG. So how do you do it? You would type something like, takes out my gun, points and aims towards name, shoots my gun at name, the bullet connects into said's name. Said's name is now dead. All the while you're having this combat with somebody, this person can also be countering your combat so they can roll out the way. It's a lot more of a fair dance these days, whereas back then it was literally like, gets out gun, shoots gun, you're dead. Like, that was literally what it was. Like, early Mafia RPG, it was that simple. So yeah, back when we joined, it was very rudimentary. Besides from combat, you were supposed to roleplay to the best of your ability and remain in character. And for me and Joe, that was running our family business, Club Tradizionale. Day-to-day activities would involve handling shipments from suppliers, hiring on new recruits, stopping assassination attempts, meetings with family members, disciplining unruly family members, or even executing them, whacking them, making them sleep with the fishies. Dying in Mafia RPG was a pretty big deal. Death usually resulted in a 3-day roleplay ban. If your family was in a war and you died while roleplaying, you would have to wait until the war was finished before you could come back and roleplay. Obviously you could still be there, but you would have to put into your Habbo description that you are dead. And so there was a lot of ghosts during wars just kind of like lurking within the doorways. Now, some of the mechanics that aided roleplay is that you would have to place sticky notes on the wall of your Habbo room and detail out the correct contents of said room. I don't know if you who are watching have actually played Habbo Mafia RPG, but most furniture in Habbo looks like tiny wooden fences. So detailing them out as bulletproof glass walls definitely had its advantages to any would-be 12-year-old sniper assassin in your door with a loaded rifle aimed at your virtual Habbo head. Roleplay on Mafia RPG was like this bizarre mix of hits, heists, power struggles, and social hierarchies with dons, underbosses, soldiers, associates, police, wives, detectives, and babies. All played by kids, no older than 12. The Vecino family was structured like a real crime family. Giuseppe took the Don position, with me as an underboss, and many others through the years, such as Luisa Vecino, a girl who joined, and she took on the mother matriarch position of the family. We started small, me and Joe, with me handling the day-to-day, while Joe was rubbing shoulders with the other more powerful families and its members. We came to the conclusion that we needed muscle, someone quick on the keyboard, a top-tier assassin, as our typing speed and combat skill, well, kinda sucked really. This mystery hitman and keyboard warrior would form the missing link in our plans for dominance, and would join the family as Vito Vecino, master assassin, made man, the missing fourth link to our otherwise unlinked chain. So the dream team was formed. Joe handled the politics and negotiations, I kept the Kappa regimes, that's the captains, in check, and Luisa kept the souls in check, marrying off people in the family, and Vito kept our enemies in check. Now in the beginning, we were nobodies, just another small fish in an otherwise massive pond. Back then you had to claw your way up. Respect wasn't given, it was earned. And we learned quickly that in the Mafia RPG world, alliances and rivalries were everything. When we first started, we didn't have a territory, but things changed fast when Vito joined us. He was a machine, a Luca Brasi type, the guy who could get the job done, no questions asked. With him on our side, we began to carve out our very own piece of the city.
So we're cupping the balls of Bronx, and we're taking Midtown right here. This is the spot right there. You see there? Cupping the ball, rim down, take the
So we muscled our way in. Midtown became ours. One borough out of the 5. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make a name for ourselves. We would start doing hits for other families, quiet jobs, the kind of work that didn't just earn us credits, but respect. Now of course things didn't stay quiet for long. We got caught in the middle of one of the biggest wars of the most powerful families in Mafia RPG at that time, between the Harloni family and Mezza, with crews like Lucchesi backing them up. It was chaos, and here's the funny part. Harloni had actually hacked Joe's original account. But hey, in the Mafia, grudges are flexible when survival is on the line. Now Harloni was cornered and outnumbered by 2 of the biggest families. So we made a move. We came to his aid. Despite our history, together we fought back. I'm pretty sure we helped him secure a truce, or at least turn the tide in his favour. Even as small as we were, we could still tip the balance. What made it all so addictive was the culture, the unwritten rules, the honour among thieves. There was a code we all lived by. Rivalries were intense, but they made you sharper. And when you weren't at war, you'd still show respect to other families, even if you were secretly plotting against them. To the rest of Habbo, we were either a joke or an elite club. Some thought it was all ridiculous, but others, they respected it. We had our own rules, our own community, and once you were in, you felt like you were part of something bigger. Looking back, we didn't just build a mafia, we built a family. And whether we were winning wars or rebuilding our trash clubs, we always stuck together, and that's what made us different. Looking back to when I was a kid role-playing on Habbo Hotel, I definitely learned some things, you know. At one point I was picking up Italian lessons. I definitely gained some confidence and some leadership skills for sure. I would say Baby Wizzle definitely gained some knowledge from playing Mafia RPG. I look back on it all with nostalgia, and some fear that I'll never be able to recapture that magic that I once felt roaming those streets, being completely immersed in this virtual gangster's world. It was truly strange and fun to be part of something so complex at such a young age, and I will forever cherish those memories to my deathbed. It is genuinely, truly ridiculous thinking about my virtual Mafia empire, and it was sometimes more stressful than school. I'll always look back on these strange, chaotic days with a mix of nostalgia and that gnawing fear that I'll never quite capture those moments again. It was weird, it was wonderful, and it was mine. Something I'll hold on to right to my deathbed. Greetings! If you've got this far, thank you so much for watching my entire essay on my Habbo story. I have one more thing to tell you guys, that the community is still going, it is still active, and I will leave a link in the description whether or not you want to get yourselves involved with it. It's based on Habbo Origins, which is the re-release of the original Habbo client. So if what I've said has enticed you to join, please, by all means, there is a community there, ready and willing to accept you. I'll catch you on the next video.